Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Joining us now, an old friend that we haven't had on, it seems like, in years. Best-selling author, a veteran, a man that's been there and done that. Kerry Patton rejoins us. Good morning, Kerry.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me back on.
It's been a while. How you been?
Busy, real busy. Still consulting some folks down in D.C. In the contractual world, working a little bit in Hollywood here and there. And actually, I created and released our first feature-length movie called Dark of Light. And now that Congressman Tom Marino decided to step down from the 12th District in Pennsylvania, I figured, sometimes we have to do things in life that we don't necessarily want to do, but we do them because we understand the need. So therefore, I put myself in with the Pennsylvania GOP shortlist as one of the contenders for that slot.
Well, congratulations. I don't know which is more dangerous, your work as a security expert on terrorism and intelligence, or being a candidate for Congress, or...
No, I agree.
Kerry,
I think politics is the more dangerous one.
Kerry, how has the world changed since Donald Trump has become president? I don't think we've talked to you since the president was elected. We used to have you on all the time, and then again, book deals. You've got a job. You've got to do this, movies and such. So it's great to have you back. But has he made America safer, in your opinion?
What a subjective question, with obviously a subjective answer. But in the end of the day, I remember when President Trump was elected, and so many people immediately said, oh, my God, we're going to have World War III. It's going to be Korea, North Korea. And right now, while I think North Korea is doing a lot of things they shouldn't be doing still, at least for the moment, he's assisted the world in putting a little bit, at least, of a pause on North Korea with their nuclear capabilities and their developments and so forth. And at least we're talking right now. You got to remember, this is the first president who has spoken to a North Korean leader since the ceasefire of the North Korean War. And that's a big deal. We don't have to like certain nations or certain nation leaders, but we would be wrong to not speak with them. The only way you could bring peace is if you try to have some type of dialogue, and I'm a firm believer in that. So in that domain, I would say he's on the right path. But unfortunately, I don't think it's Donald Trump, so to speak, who's making the situation worse by any means. I think it's his opponents in D.C. that are trying to sabotage what he is doing on the world stage, as well as inside the United States with, quote-unquote, draining the swamp. He's got a lot of resistance, and that, I think, is our greatest threat today. It's the internal resistance inside the United States that is fighting tooth and nail to undermine every initiative he has put forth.
Does that include the intelligence networks?
The U.S. intelligence community is completely broken right now. There are so many things that I wish I could discuss openly, but I refuse to discuss openly. One, because I don't know how much of it I can explain, but all people have to do is, look, there's a book that just came out from Dan Bongino, who is a Secret Service agent formerly. He created the book called Spygate, and I'm telling you, people need to read that because there is so much material evidence that has proven how corrupted the intelligence community has become and our Department of Justice has become.
Kerry, let's talk a little bit about one of the books that you did previously write, the Syria Report, the West's destruction of Syria to gain control of Iran. Can you go into detail on that? Because a lot of us don't know a lot about Syria. We hear about it. We go back and forth about it, but we don't really know what's at stake there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now that book really explains the concept of what I refer to as shaping operations. The United States, since the end of World War II, has been heavily involved in shaping operations throughout the world. South America, we were heavy into shaping operations during the 70s and 80s. Now you see it in the Middle East post 1952-ish time frame. And what we have done is we have tried to position ourselves with key organizations and or leaders throughout the world so we can manipulate specific situations to our national interest advantage. There's nothing wrong with that. Every world leader understands the need to do that, and everybody does it. It's a fight between who can shape environments best. We played a very unique game with Great Britain back in the 1950s when Iran wanted to nationalize their oil industry, and that would have crippled British Petroleum. Syria is merely a puppet to Iran. And part of what is unfolded in Syria is the bigger picture of shaping operations to put a larger squeeze on Iran in the future.
Well, Kerry, you have the Iranians running wild in Syria. You've got the Russians, you've got Assad, you've got the Turks, you've got the Kurds. You know these folks. Do we need to be there? The president says we're out, and I forgot ISIS is in there as well.
Right. I personally don't believe the U.S. military as a whole needs to be in a place like Syria. And to be quite frank, I don't believe the U.S. military as a whole needs to necessarily be in a place like Iraq or Yemen or even Afghanistan for that matter. What I do believe is unique organizations within the special operations world and within the clandestine activities domain and covert operations domain, which would include private contractors who supplement those entities, should be in those places. And they should be continuing their mission to allow the opportunity for manipulation within that area of operation. But to have a large force, I don't believe it's necessary. And in fact, I believe it's a great waste on our economy and more so on our blood.
Kerry, I'm sure you've heard the president was discussed maybe coming to a deal with the Taliban, that the Taliban says we're going to be the good Taliban this time, and we're not going to have the terrorists there, possibly leading to a withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I know the Taliban pretty well. I know the Haqqani network pretty well. And I will tell you, these folks are not going to negotiate anything that would be in the interest of the United States. It would be a negotiation that fully supports their own desires because they have absolutely nothing to lose. We're the ones that are going to lose this game. So my recommendation, this is a crazy recommendation, nobody ever would think of this. If you're going to negotiate with these people, let's learn who these people really are, learn what we can do to passively work with them in unique ways that would support our advantage. We know we worked with Saddam Hussein back in the 80s. That was a fact. Saddam Hussein was never a good person. He was an evil, brutal dictator, but we had to work with him. We could do the same thing with some of these organizations, specifically like the Taliban, who, for the most part, are not true radical Islamists like we believe and like the media has told us. Most of them don't even know how to read or write, let alone in Arabic, which is the mandated reading and writing of the Quran. They're only doing what they're told because they're survivalists. They want to survive. They had to pick a team, and the team they picked was the one that they knew would be in their land the longest, because no foreign government has been in Afghanistan for any significant period of time to make a change.
That's why they call it the graveyard of empires. Kerry Patton joining us, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, 107.5 FM. Kevin Miller in the morning. So, Kerry, let's talk a little bit about the Middle East, the new foreign policy under President Trump compared to Obama. Your thoughts?
The one thing that President Obama did that I appreciate it doesn't mean I agreed with it, but I appreciate it, was he did increase drone strikes throughout the Middle East. He took out a ton of high-value targets. And I would rather see us implement those types of strategies along with what I previously stated with the small organizations within the soft community and the clandestine activities and so forth than the larger military force. President Obama listened to his generals, who most of them have proven to be utter failures. And the reason why I can say that is for 16, 17 years in the war in Afghanistan, what have we achieved? President Trump has now realized those exact sentiments are true. These generals have manipulated the American people for increased DoD budgets in an attempt to support the military-industrial complex, which has made gazillions of dollars off of these wars, and we have received zero results. In fact, I can't even say we've received zero results. The results we have received were absolute negative results with the loss of good American lives. And by the way, none of this means that I am a pacifist or an anti-war person. I'm the first one that's willing to go to a war. But sometimes you have to take a step back and say, we're actually failing here, and we need to do something dramatically different.
Kerry Patton, always a pleasure. What would we do if you were advising the president? What would you tell him? Maybe when you're in Congress, what would you say to him?
Every one of these generals that are in a position in the Pentagon right now, you need to do a great reassessment on these individuals and determine whether or not they need to really be there, just like General Mattis. While everybody loved General Mattis, I never liked General Mattis, let alone wanted him as a SecDef. He was a failed commander, and anybody should understand that if they know what happened to the Special Forces team that he refused to provide air support with, who actually had team members killed in the very beginning of that war. He refused their call for help. And yet we made this guy like he was the greatest person in the world. People refer to him as General Patton. I took that very offensive, to be quite frank. Reassess these generals. That's key right now. And understand the wars that we are fighting are unconventional, asymmetric wars that do not need conventional forces or conventional mindsets implemented to achieve any positive outcomes.
Kerry, if people want to get a hold of you, maybe catch your work on Amazon, what can they do?
Right now I'm on Facebook. I got a Facebook page, it's Kerry Patton for Congress. And then those that want to get on with Twitter, you can find it at Kerpat, KERPAT 14.
Kerry, it's been too long. Thank you for your service and your continued service, sir.
Hey, I appreciate it, bud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kerry Patton, Old Home Day here. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to the phones. And we go to Liberty Linda. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin.
Thank you for your patience.
After
Good morning.
what I said yesterday, I just wanted to say I know some absolutely lovely people who speak English and Spanish. However, since they have come to our country, they honor who we are and they honor the United States, and happy to be here. So I just wanted to clarify that in regard to what we were talking about yesterday.
Well, right, and for people that missed that, we were talking about Tom Brokaw being vilified for his comments concerning people needing to learn to speak English and to assimilate, being called every name in the book. You've also got the Duke professor. She's in charge of admissions to the medical school, saying to the Chinese, look, you need to speak English. and she was vilified. When have we? When in America today is speaking English become a crime?
Right. Absolutely, I agree with you. We love our language, and and those who come here and honor the United States, honor our language, our ways. We invite them here, and obey our laws. I know some absolutely lovely people who speak Spanish as their second language. Just wonderful people. Anyway, I wanted to clarify that, and then also I wanted to say that it's absolutely horrible what they did to Roger Stone. I've heard Roger Stone speak many times, and what's going on in our country, he loves his country and only wants the best for it. It was just a show yesterday they put on. I can't believe 17 automobiles, 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, what in the world did they have to do that for?
Right.
When, he is such a marvelous person, and he always speaks positive about the United States, wanting the best for the United States. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. And I know you feel the same way, that, how many times have I heard Roger Stone speak? Many, many, many times, and I've only heard good coming out of his mouth for the United States. Anyway, I wanted to clarify that, too. It's all theatrics.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And anyway, we need to keep him in our prayers, and we need to keep you in our prayers, and, we need to pray for our country every day.
Well, we're praying for you, and
I pray that I can make it up there for
the State of the Union Watch Party. It looks like that's going to happen February 5th.
I know. Is that going to be at Dave & Buster's?
It'll be at Dave & Buster's, yes.
Well, we'll see.
Well, we'd love to have you. Hope you're feeling better.
Love to be there. Anyway, love you, Kevin. Everything you do for our country, for us. You wake us up early, and we may call in with a hoarse voice because we're not awake yet, but we still call in, and you listen. So thank you for that, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Liberty. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, back to our conversation, the folks in Ontario, well, at least the pot shop owners are excited. They believe they're going to make money off Idahoans going to buy legal weed. Of course, it's still illegal in the Gem State. People here say it's only a matter of time. At least the pro-pot proponents in the press, yeah, I tried to say that fast, are saying that this is going to be a good thing, and we're going to have a good time, and we're all going to get high between 5 to 10 years. I don't believe it. Plus, our campaign continues about repealing the grocery tax. What's up with that? Where is the legislature? Why isn't it happening? All that more. We got a lot to talk about. Please join me. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And coming up, a report from Channel 7. Yes, many Californians are moving to Idaho. Here are other states they are coming from. Yeah, nothing like the folks from California, though, right? And we acknowledge the good ones as well. We'll get to that as we roll along. Back to the story, because, again, I think it's very relevant that that this is where we distinguish ourselves as an audience, as a program, as something more than just a radio show. We proudly promote life, and we proudly help our friends, Idaho Chooses Life, David Ripley, and all the life groups, and what they did in New York, where they're cheering that horrendous ruling. Shame on those people. And we try to live a faith-based life, a faith-based program. And part of that is when we see something wrong is we say that it's wrong, where we have people salivating in Ontario, Oregon, and not the folks in Ontario, the good people. And I know 107.5 FM, we get jammed there by the state-sponsored socialist radio. But out of Portland, out of reality, though, the people of Ontario did not want the pot there. But you had big money, pro-pot interests come in, and now they're looking to create an economic windfall off the backs of people from Idaho. Other cities in Oregon which decided to opt out when Oregon's voted to legalize marijuana in 2014, it's still a culture shock. And for officials in Idaho who have steadfastly stood against even medical marijuana legalization, I love this. I love this, how they word things, even against. How about just steadfast, who have stood against? Do we have to throw in steadfastly even? Do we have to qualify things? This is how journalism, this is how the deep state works, folks. There is some worry that it could be headed our way. Canyon County Sheriff Kieran Donahue, our good friend, sit down with any addict and they're going to say, yeah, I started with marijuana. Donahue continues, I think Ontario is making making a mistake. Ontario officials are focused on capitalizing on this new industry as much as they can. They believe Idaho, I love the wording of this. Again, instead of saying, and they believe that Idaho, instead of saying that as they believe that even Idaho might join in legalization within the next 5 to 10 years. Look, you can say what you want about the governor. God bless him for saying no. I am all in favor of say no to drugs like Nancy Reagan. State projections show the city could receive up almost $1 million from pot sales tax. Of course, we don't have the reports concerning what happens when you have more people addicted, when you have more crime, when you have more challenges. Do we? You know, back to this point here, they're talking about Huntington, Oregon, having fewer than 500 residents. And they recently, I love this, 9 out of 10 parked cars were from Idaho. It's an open secret that most patrons of the pot business come from across the state lines. And to me, again, we will be the one outlet, the one show that will continue to rail against this and say, no, no, no. We're going to sit back and say, look, we are with Drug-Free Idaho. We are with Keep Idaho. We are with the people that say this is not good for the area. Ontario Mayor Riley Hill doesn't think the 3% sales tax on the dope that cities are allowed to impose is sufficient. He's asking Oregon lawmakers to raise the city tax to 18%. Hill ran for the city's top post as a vocal opponent of marijuana legalization, an issue said that divided the city. If you look at Colorado, experience in other states, you can see that they have an increased contact with police, more homeless. It's an impediment for employment. If you want to be in the healthcare industry or trucking, it stays in your system. It was just a lot of things that doesn't seem positive for the community. I agree. More next. Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, your home for Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you very much, Sean Hannity. Don't forget Lars Larson right after Sean Hannity, 6 to 9. Good, God-fearing conservative talk continues throughout the day and night right here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Jeff Manasso joins us now to talk a little global warming. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin. Good. Yeah, it's no global warming in sight, at least from the Dakotas down to St. Louis and up to Cleveland in the coming days. I mean, it is cold, to say the least, here, and it's getting worse. So right now it's about -5, -7 degrees here in Chicago. We're going to see that plummet to about -20, -23 with the wind chill, hovering around, -50 or so. -60 in Minneapolis and up into the Dakotas, where it could even get colder. These are temperatures that we haven't seen in generations, decades, if not ever, on recorded history. And so people are being warned, heed the advice. If you don't have to go anywhere, don't. There are states of emergency declared in multiple states. Schools have already decided to close, whether it's today or tomorrow or for the entire week because of the cold, and businesses are shuttered. It is dangerously cold out there.
And yet you people still live in those places.
Oh, come on. This is just a Tuesday here in the Midwest. I mean, look, if you're prepared for it and you've got some supplies and, your furnace is in good working order and, you've got a full tank of gas and hopefully you don't have to go too many places. I think you're going to ride this out and just be just fine. I mean, look, it makes winter certainly more interesting. than your standard 30 degrees with no snow on the ground and grass is kind of brown and looks kind of gray, and it's just this is an interesting time for us, and beyond that, the most important thing is that people stay safe, and look, most people will.
Jeff Monosso joining us, Fox News Radio. So what is this polar vortex?
Well, it's this air. I'm not a meteorologist, you know that, so I couldn't tell you what a polar vortex is, but I just know that there's this air system moving in from Canada, pushing its way here, and how it moves or where it moves or which wind direction and how it comes around to nail us, I don't know, but it's nailing us. And into tomorrow, it's going to be downright Arctic here, and when it's this cold, it squeezes the air, all of the moisture out of the air. So it's just this really dry, biting cold that can do severe damage and could be deadly if exposed. I mean, just minutes to this type of cold. Really important that that folks in this area keep the pets indoors. Let them go outside and do their thing and get them back inside. We're worried about pipes bursting. It's important, too, when it gets this cold. I mean, look, you've even got, it's about 14 degrees or so by you right now, but it feels like -8, according to, the latest numbers that I'm seeing. But even then, if you've got your sink's up against an outside wall, you're going to want to keep that lower cabinet open, and perhaps even a little drip going on just to make sure that your pipes don't freeze. It could lead to some serious stuff. You don't want your pipes bursting. We hope we don't hear about fires because of space heaters and things like that. There are warming stations opened up throughout the region, and most importantly, officials are saying just keep an eye out for each other and keep an eye out for your neighbor, because we're kind of all in this together.
Finally, I would imagine people across the Midwest, a hearty lot of Midwesterners. Very durable people, used to grinding it out, but certainly worried about electric, gas, water, utilities.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're all doing fine because our furnaces are working
Yes.
because we've got power.
Right.
But you take away the power, and then, well, then it's a different story. And so hats off to not only first responders but to those crews that are working probably overtime out in the frigid cold, climbing those poles and and keeping those lines working for us, because without them we have no power source to run our stuff, and everybody's in trouble. So these guys, these brave men and women that are keeping the lights on, the furnace going, thank you. I thank you. Because
you got a lot of listeners, I'm sure, in Idaho that are working at the utilities, my friend. Finally, who are you going with in the big game?
I mean, I think Tom Brady's going to eke it out. Yeah, I think he's going to. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Did you go with the Patriots last year?
I did.
Oh,
yeah. I never. Yeah, I try never to bet against the Patriots. They're just so good, and they're the most beloved and most hated team in America, I think, because of it. It's like the Cowboys in the 1990s. They kept winning, so everybody hated them. But Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, again, they're undeniable, and they've put something together that has really become a winning machine. And I think that LA is really prove themselves in this beginning year out of LA after that transition, and they've done some amazing things. But I think that it's going to be your team.
One can only hope. Jeff Monosso, stay warm, brother. We appreciate you.
Will do, my friend.
Thank you. Jeff Monosso joining us. Pete in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Pete.
Kevin, good morning. It's great to be able to talk to you again after my interesting stay at the hospital, and thank God I was there. St. Luke's, Elmore County, great hospital. Anyway, let me suggest there's a money-making opportunity here with the Ontario pot shops.
Sure.
Somebody with a good spotting scope or a good pair of binoculars could sit within visual range of the parking lot of their pot shop.
Right.
and write down license plates of Idaho plates there and call them into the hotline, the criminal hotline, and get your anonymous reward for that.
Call in Crime Stoppers, right?
Yeah, Crime Stoppers, you bet. Just help the Idaho State Police identify who's crossing the border with their little supply.
Well, if ISP ever needed a fundraiser, you could just zap those people because they won't be smart enough not to speed. So you'll get them for speeding and then possession. The problem is we don't have enough jails to hold them in. So I don't know if we come up with some type of work release.
You could
or
find them, and then you could confiscate their vehicle as something being used to transport illegal substances.
Boy, that sounds like the gulag.
Well, consequences for breaking the law.
Well, what do you make of this whole Ontario bit? You have the big money people coming in. They overwhelm this town. Now they're going to, and I love this. You're going to purchase all sorts of marijuana products, the vape, edibles. Hi, would you like a marijuana gummy?
Good Lord.
Chocolate, cookies, pretzels, and soaking salts.
And people who say that's a harmless drug. I'm sorry. It really is a gateway drug. It gets you it puts you in the mode of wanting to get more of what's numbing your brain, I think.
Well,
and if you've ever talked to somebody who is stoned, you don't want them on the road.
No, you don't. And you go back to what happened in Colorado. More homeless, more crime, more contact with police,
yep.
People stinking up the parks, and what?
Okay, here we go. I have a positive unintended consequence. Maybe the Idaho people who really, really think marijuana is great, like say Liberal Steve, will all move to Oregon, to Ontario, so they can be right close.
Well, and if it's so harmless, why did they put in a buffer of 1,000 feet from schools, parks, 500-foot buffer from residential areas? They're making a deal with the devil.
Oh, you bet they are. Yep. And I certainly hope our Idaho legislature and our governor will hold firm on this one.
We hope that Governor Little, one day we hope to hear from him. But if we don't, we'll just talk about him. We hope that he stands firm on this.
You betcha. And Kevin, I really appreciate you and KIDO 580 AM 107.5 FM continue fighting the good fight.
Well, one day, in the old days, we used to go to Mountain Home, I think, 2 or 3 times a year, primarily to the base. But if I have my way, we would be out on the road a bit more. That we'd love to come see you, Pete.
Well, one of the schools here that you might want to contact that I think does a really excellent job is our alternative high school. McKenna. Mm-hmm. McKenna High School. If you get a chance to talk to them, they do a great job.
Pete, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and stay with it, man.
Roger that. God bless.
God bless you.
Bye, Pete. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, what happens if you get busted in the gem state for the pot? Is it fair? You'll find out with me on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And keeping Idaho drug-free, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. This is what happens if you get busted for marijuana possession in Idaho. Stiff penalties, according to this article in the paper. It's a misdemeanor if you have less than 3 ounces. You could still face up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine. So if you've got less than 3 ounces, boy, that's so unfair. So unfair. Of course, the challenge, whether it's in Ada County or Canyon County, no room in the jails. We need more jails. We need more cells. Well, Kevin, this is a harmless crime. I'll tell that to the people that have lost people because of someone impaired on marijuana. Oh, no, it's no big deal. Okay. Now, get convicted of a felony possession. You get up to 5 years in jail. and a $10,000 fine. Now, here we have this comment from Canyon County Sheriff Kieran Dowdy. We can stand strong against the marijuana movement. That's what I do. That's what I say to our legislators, because they are absolutely devastating side effects to this idea, and it's playing out in places like Oregon, Colorado, and Washington. There we have it. Of course, the Payette County Sheriff, Andy Creech, said there haven't been any major spikes in crime or other issues. That's mainly because our jail is full. We don't have room to house nonviolent offenders. Blah, blah, blah. It's still against the law in Idaho, and we're enforcing the laws. They should do that in Oregon and not bring it back to Idaho. Well, I'm glad there's some balance on this story when we're talking a little bit about this. Now you have the Idaho Freedom Foundation. They'd like to see Idaho's approach to marijuana change, something it's advocated for even prior to the move to Ontario. They want to decriminalize the drug and make it an initiative during the legislative session. Well, look, we can talk about this all the time, but the bottom line here is that Governor Little, Kevin Miller, and the legislature, we have our priorities in the right place, as opposed to those folks that are looking to profit. You know, you could make a lot of money. There are many ways to make a lot of money if you don't have any values. You can make money selling drugs. You can make money selling yourself. You can make money doing all sorts of things. But most people in Idaho, most people say, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, there are many people advocating, hey, it's time to buy marijuana stocks in marijuana dispensaries. They still can't go to the banks because it's against the law. Now, I hope that the new Attorney General follows in the footsteps of Jeff Sessions and starts taking these states to court saying the federal law says marijuana is illegal. You can't advocate a state disobeying federal law. It's not consistent with federalism. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work. Oh. And Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's go to Ben in Garden City on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Ben.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. So I haven't ever used marijuana. I'm not somebody who has any desire to use it. I don't think it helps people for the most part, but I'm opposed to any kind of law or legislation that takes that right away from other people. I don't think that legislators should suppose that they have a right to tell people they can't use an herb any more than they have a right to tell people they can't have a big gulp or whatever. You could look at donuts, for instance, and how much problems they cause people. And we could go down the line of different foods and different reasons why people shouldn't eat or take these things into their bodies, but yet they do, and the great medical expenses that are associated with that. And so saying, well, yeah, it's harmful, you're right, but the cure is much worse than the disease. I mean, when you're taking people's inalienable rights away, you guys, you take their inalienable rights away to supposedly protect them, I think that's worse. And I just don't think that the legislators should suppose they have that right.
Well, Ben, where is it that we have a constitutional right to smoke marijuana? And with respect to your argument, we may not agree, but with respect to you and your argument, the federal law already says it is illegal. These states are in violation of federal law. It would be one thing if it were legal and then the government said, no, we're going to make it illegal.
Well, that's a good point. And, you know, the federal government and the states both know that the United States Constitution doesn't give them the authority to tell the states that they can't use an herb. And they do have the right to interfere with interstate commerce to regulate that. But the United States Constitution grants no authority to the federal government to tell the states what to do in regards to planting or how they use herbs. And the states know that. So state governments know that.
Well,
That's why so many have ignored it.
Right. Well, we'll see if the government does enforce that through the supremacy clause.
And Kevin, I totally understand, maybe not totally, but I understand people that don't want the use of marijuana. I don't like it either. And, if I had a business, I did question people, do you use marijuana? And, if I thought it was going to affect them at all, I wouldn't hire them for that. And I think that we should have a right in our hiring to discriminate against people because they use a substance. But I just don't think the legislator should be able to tell people in their personal life, you can't use that. And it's an herb.
Ben, great point. Good morning.